everyone's like, wait a minute. You want to change up all you have in Las Vegas and then go get a second house and build a farm, a ranch, and have retreats. And like, are you nuts? You have it all, right? How could you walk away from certainty? How could you just risk it all again? You know, I've had a lot of people ask me, why would you have these topics where you share topics that trigger people? And why would you have even the 10-year marriage podcast in the first place? I want to stay private and I don't want people knowing my business. And you're just sharing everything about your finances, about your business, about your parenting, about your sex life, about how you feel, your emotions and your attachment styles, and how you feel about religion. And we haven't even gotten to politics, which I'm sure we will. Like, why would you just leave yourself open for this?
I mean, I have my answer, but I was thinking about it this morning because I was talking to my trainer about it. And I was saying, like, you know, every episode, somebody seems to be triggered or somebody's validating something or somebody reaches out about something. But for me personally, like, this is a personal growth thing. Like, I never have been great at communication. I've never been comfortable being vulnerable. And every time we do an episode, I can feel myself opening up a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And whether people agree with me or don't agree with me, it's like the willingness for my soul and myself to be able to have those conversations is a personal growth journey for me.
That's the craziest thing that people don't realize and they don't see, that it's not only like opening up these pockets and windows and opportunities for conversation and triggering people to justify their own way of doing it. It's triggering us too.
Huge.
Right? So we're having to have these conversations that in the moment we're like, of course we're aligned. Like, we just finished a conversation about frequency of how many times you had sex. And it triggered a whole bunch of shit in the past for me. And I'm thinking, like, this is why we're doing it. And my coach Garrett was like, you do a podcast with your wife, it will make your relationship so much stronger, but it'll also force you to have some conversations that are uncomfortable and go into. And of course, the ones that trigger me the most are the ones where I've like had to work on and things like that.
Or the ones that we're falling behind on or falling short on.
So while we're talking about it and sharing it with the world, we're actually working on it. Mm-hmm. Which is the topic of this episode, which is, I was going to say, are you willing to risk the marriage you're in to have the one you want?
Yeah.
But then I was like, wait a minute, are you willing to risk it all to have it all? And in business, we have our answer already. I mean, we've done it multiple times. Mm-hmm. And in marriage, I think you have to do, I think that, isn't that the definition of growth?
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are just, that's not their focus, and they're very comfortable in their own lives and they're very comfortable with their routines. And, you know, one of the things that I think aligns us the most is that we've never been like, nobody would look at our life, including us, and say, what do you have to change? Like, I look at it all the time and I'm like, wait a minute, why do I want more? I'm questioning it all the time. Like, I vacillate between like, wait a minute, we could just live this life and be comfortable and we're all healthy and we're great and we're successful and all these things. But to what end? Like, I don't want to live the same day over and over and over again for the rest of my life. Like, I want to see what's next. I want to experience. I want our kids to experience. And I think that that's why it's this like, you know, 3 steps backwards, 10 steps forward. And it's always like I think about it on a daily basis. Like, wait a minute, why do I want to give this up? Because that's scary, especially when we have a lot to lose by risking it all.
There's like 3 quotes or 3 ways of doing things that are just popping into my brain right now. Mm-hmm. One of them is, the biggest risk you could take in life is not taking any risk at all. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not going to put her on blast, but I had kind of like a friend, an acquaintance, someone I know fairly well, mm-hmm. send me this very long private message on Facebook yesterday. Mm-hmm. First episode she ever watched was the second one about finances. And I read it to you and I was like, I don't understand what's happening here. At first I didn't.
Yeah.
It was just like an explanation and a sharing of how her and her husband do finances and with some tidbits and stuff. And I was like, is she validating the way she does things? Like, is she just compelled to share compared to what we have talked about in that episode?
Mm-hmm.
But there was one thing that really stood out to me. It was like this justification around like, we don't have inheritance, we don't have a safety net. Like, we have to play the game conservatively. And I think people use that, right? Because they get to that point where they're like, it took me everything to get here.
Yeah.
And now I have a responsibility to my kids and to myself that as I get older, I need to take less risk.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to like make her feel bad, but I was like, that's the definition of playing small.
Yep.
That's the scariest part about growth is the pain of the unknown, the fear of the unknown. Like people like, there's no growth without pain. A lot of people like get triggered by that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, growth can, no. Growth,
It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There's a stripping away of stuff. And then the last one that I was thinking of is, it's a Gary Brecka quote. Aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. That it is like proven that if you don't move your body, if you don't lift weights, if you don't walk and go into motion, your body will deteriorate, atrophy, and die. Mm-hmm. But you have to rip the muscle.
Yep.
You
over
have
and
to
over again for it to grow. Yeah.
And yet we live in this world where we're like, we don't want to see what's on the other side of that, I don't know, the door, because the door leads to the darkness. And in the darkness, we are risking it all that we have fought so hard to have.
Yeah, it's the unknown. And it's like, I mean, I don't think there's a successful person out there that has risked it all without thinking of like the worst case scenario. Like, okay, what if I give this up, then what happens if I lose it all and doesn't work out and I become homeless and I eventually die on the side of a street, right? Like that's where my brain goes.
It all leads to death.
Yeah.
It all leads to either being lonely or death.
Right. Which in a lot of cases is very the same. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then leads us to this, right? Are we willing to risk it all to have it all in our marriage? Most of the time, but not always. How you show up in one way of your life, there's at least some synergy or some crossover into everything, right? What we are doing here, it's like almost going to therapy. Mm-hmm. Nobody likes going to therapy because you got to go into the shit.
Yeah. It's going into therapy, in putting it out for the world to see, and then letting everybody else have an opinion on it, and then making sure that those opinions don't affect our connection and our relationship. I mean, there's a lot to it. And it's...
Yeah, because no one wants to see you win.
Right.
Some people do connect and they're like, all right. You know what it reminded me of? The Parasites story. Like
when I got my colonic?
Yeah, you were like, here's what's crazy about Parasites.
Oh, yeah. So I asked her, like, I was like, what's your opinion on Parasites? Because she was very into spiritual and very into health and everything. You could tell she was a healthy person. And she's like, listen, she's like, here's the thing. Like, we all have them. Most of them are microscopic. We can't see them. There are large ones in there. Most of the time it's like sacs. And she was like, but what happens is if you start a detox, a parasite cleanse, and you stop in the middle of it, what you're doing is you're like awakening all of these things in your body. And then you stop and then you don't fully like get them out. You're just creating a worse problem, right? Now they're alive, now they're moving, now they're doing things, and you haven't followed through. And I don't know where you were going with that, but it was just...
You don't see the metaphor?
No, I totally do.
So it's like you could be living with the parasites in your body and you could ignore it.
Yep.
But they may start living in your brain and then they can do some damage.
Yep.
And then even if you are willing, this is growth, right? Okay, things are status quo. I'm comfortable, right? If I just leave everything the way it is and not fuck with it or irritate it or try to change it, then everything stays the same.
Yeah.
But the minute I have this vision of what could be, or this desire to improve and grow, reveal, become, change, I have to now awaken the parasites. And then it's not fun because shit, literally shit from inside comes to the surface that you haven't dealt with in a while. You've done a really good job of thinking that you've buried that to never be seen again.
Yeah.
Avoidance of this high, purest form. And now you got to finish the job. And that's just basically the J curve of growth, right? Like you're gonna start at kind of where you're at.
Yeah.
With this goal of rising. And it is not linear. You have to go into the darkness and into the pit and get comfortable with it and then make it out. Because if not, now you go back to the beginning and now you have all these parasites. So you're actually worse off than when you've begun.
Right.
Because you could break shit without fixing it. And you could be like, well, and isn't that what growth is? It's like this leap into the unknown with no guarantees and potentially making it worse. Risking it all to have it all. And like you said, there's no successful people that are batting 1,000. They usually have had massive failures, bankruptcies, and things like that, but they see it through and continue to do it. So in a marriage, if you think about it, at least I'm thinking about it right here in the moment, that's what the 10-year marriage is. It's a commitment to say goodbye to everything that has gotten you to where you are now in the marriage. The norms and the work and the equilibrium that you fought hard for.
Yep.
And now you're like, you know what? I want to go to the next level of this marriage.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to risk everything we've put in the past. Because if not...
Then those old stories come up, those old beliefs, those limiting beliefs, all the things that we just talked about outside. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Instead of just burning it down and being like, all right, that was old versions of us. Now,
but you got to still go. And we got out of it quicker because that episode triggered me. And then the minute I got triggered, you got triggered. And we were back to where we were 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
And almost like we had like gotten rid of 4 or 5 years of growth. But yet having that conversation is what's required to get to the next level. Because I was like, shit, like it's so much better in so many areas of our life, but I want it to be better. And so a lot of people are just not willing to go there.
Yeah. And I would argue that like part of my issue, because I feel like I've always been like that. I've always been like, I want more. I want to see more. I want to do more. I want to be more. Part of my biggest journey in all of this, getting rid of the good to get to the great, is like being comfortable with what it is now and like being patient. Like I'm already 5 steps ahead. And for me, like the biggest growth that I have is to be like centered and to be like, okay, like I can enjoy this. I can enjoy the journey while we're getting to this pursuit of whatever we're trying to do. But like, that's been real work for me, because I feel like what you're explaining, like that is my worst nightmare, is to be the same. And you would always be like, you would tell me, and it was totally true. Like, you can't relax. There's no relaxing. It's always more. Like, what do you need? Like, there's never enough. You're never satisfied. And I was like, you're right. Like, how can't I, like, I've worked so hard to get to this point. Like, I need celebration and I need to enjoy the journey as I'm going.
You got to be careful not to, we're on the other end, right? We live sometimes way too far into the future. You live even further in the future than I do. And sometimes we could get really in love and living with a future that has not happened yet. And we'd be really full of shit if we haven't pulled off a lot of the things, if not most of them.
And it hurts the present moment in a lot of cases.
I joke. It's not even stop and smell the roses. It's just, smell them along the way. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've been focusing a little bit right now on entrepreneurs, specifically realtors with 7 figures, $1 million mindset, like a lot. And people are like, why $1 million? Like, well, I've done it multiple times, multiple businesses, and it's really easier than you think. It's easier for someone who has $0 to imagine making $1 million than it is for someone making 250 or 500, because they've gotten so comfortable with this success that they know deep down, or they don't like it when I tell them that in order to go from 250 or 500 to $1 million, we have to start stripping away stuff. We actually have to do less. It breaks their frames a little bit, because they're like, well, wait a minute. What if changing makes me go in the other direction and make less money rather than 10x and make the $1 million? And I'm like, well, If you don't, what'll happen is that 500 or 250 that you're making, you will have to start working harder and harder and harder and harder just to maintain where you're at. And then rather than this growth, you will be in this prison of just trying to keep what you have.
Mm-hmm.
And
which we did, 2001 to 2002. That was kind of our story, right? Like we went from closing like just in the real estate like team.
Wait.
What?
We didn't even know each other in 2001, 2002. What are you talking about?
I meant 21, 22.
Oh, it's like, where are you going with
21
this?
and 22.
You hadn't even graduated high school in 2000.
Yeah, that's fair. 2005. But we dealt with this in 2000, was it 2021? Where that's what we were dealing with. We were like, oh, we made $1 million.
No, 22. Oh, no, you're right. 21. 22, we didn't make it.
Yes.
We came close.
And it was like I was working my ass off to try to make it because I was like, oh, I got to get there. And finally, I just like let go.
23, we did it. 24, we did it. Right. And now there's even more of a let go.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's easy to see it on money.
Mm-hmm.
But now let's apply it to a marriage. Everyone's like, wait a minute. You want to change up, because we have already with our business,
mm-hmm.
all you have in Las Vegas, and then go get a second house and build a farm, a ranch, and have retreats. And like, are you nuts? You have it all. How could you just risk it all again? Right? How could you walk away from certainty? And think about this.
Certainty and security.
It's not just you and me. It's finances. Our marriage can be stretched on this. Our kids and our parenting can be stretched with this. Like, why would you? Like, we could literally pay off the mortgage and just sit around and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And just go through the motions.
Yeah. And I think, listen, like that's the vacillating between back and forth, because there's so many times where I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so challenging. I mean, the places we're looking, the weather's going to be different. There's going to be bugs. There's going to be things like we're talking about entirely different worlds for all 5 of us. And it is going to challenge our frames big time. But I think our vision is bigger than the fear of all of this stuff, and like our purpose, living our purpose and making impact, and you living in truth and doing your coaching on like what I believe you were here, like put on this earth to do. That to me is like, I don't, even if we made half of what we made before money wise, or we, our vacations weren't so glamorous, but we were hiking in national parks or something, like I'm willing to make those sacrifices to live in that new world. And
the irony is, the minute you let go of the money, the minute you let go of all the other things and just follow the purpose and the calling, the abundance flows in unbelievably. Like, it is almost virtually impossible not to make more money or have more impact and more joy, because now you're completely in flow state. You're completely aligned with whatever belief you have. You're completely aligned with God. You're completely aligned with Source. You're completely aligned with the universe. And then that law of attraction just opens up the floodgates.
Yep.
If you go, but taking that step is the hardest thing to do. And it's been talked about so often that it's ubiquitous. It's like a cliche. But yet actually doing it, like the let them thing, like if I see one, no offense, but if I see one more woman post, I'm in my let them phase, I'm going to lose my shit. You know why?
I was just going to post. I'm just kidding.
No, it's because there's 2 parts of this. It's one thing about actually, like, I love the fact that they want to lean into this, because the theory around it is liberating. But who's actually going to do it? Who's actually going to walk the walk? I will say it, if I say it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. One of my favorite quotes from The Matrix. There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. There's a lot of people who talk the talk. There are very few who walk it. And so talking about growth, talking about doing you, and then actually doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Post the let them thing with no makeup, honey. You know what I mean? Post the let them, like, not when, it's, you know what I'm saying? Because that's to me true growth.
Yeah.
True growth, true unapologetic growth, vulnerability, risking it all. Like, how many people have walked away? Like, Urban Nest, I was making like 7-figure EBITDA take home. 24 was one of the best years we had in a down market. We're still like the accumulation of quality agents that are quality people and do quality business. Like top of the game, king, castle, kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I see everything changing. I see the purpose of where I have to go. I'm going to risk a 7-figure take home business to follow my purpose. You see, that's open the fucking kimono and let's see what we really got.
Yeah.
And now I know that's part of my narrative and my story. And I listen, even though I've had the calling, even though I've had the vision, you don't think I negotiate with it? You don't think I have moments of doubt? It's fucking hard.
Yeah. But how many people are like, there's one thing. There's the thing that they're constantly suppressing, and that voice inside that they're constantly being like, no, it's fine. We have a great life. We're super comfortable. We're not going to like wreck anything. This is good. Like, how many people are doing that on a daily basis that are just like, you know, and listen, like, I believe that there's people that are truly happy and content in their, really? I do.
I believe like, and maybe this is just me always searching.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something on that list when I look at somebody that they haven't scratched that itch. They haven't went for it.
Yeah.
And I always play the rocking chair game. Like, I want to experience it all. Like a life well lived. Like what's that song I love so much? It's a One Republic song.
I lived.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you break the bones. I hope you get the stitches. I hope someone breaks your heart. Right? I get chills. Like I almost want to, like it touches me so much. Like you can't experience this life fully unless you experienced each extreme range of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. Like I want to go down fucking swinging.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? For as much as I worry about dying and these crazy things, like I know that I got to continually go for it.
Yeah.
Just break myself against this wall. And that's, I think, why we connect. Because even in the hardest of times, we're both committed to that.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the, I don't know if we've talked about it on the the podcast or not, but I always come back to like one of our proudest parent moments was when we were driving in the car, and I think the girls, we were talking about something.
We were talking about the building.
Yeah.
We had just went and saw the coffee class. We had checked it out.
Yep. I think we hadn't done the podcast yet, but we
were on our way to the barn.
Mm-hmm.
We were literally going from one thing we said we were going to do to another thing with you with the horse, right? Yep. I don't know if it's Ella Lola, and they're like, are we buying the coffee class? And I said, no.
Yeah.
I was like, but they are potentially going to be in our building. And they're like, well, why are we eating here? I'm like, because I want to touch it, taste it, feel it, to make sure that I'm making an investment in my building that that you believe in. And I believe them. And I think it was Ella who was like, man, you guys, you do what you say you're going to do. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, me and Lola talk about it all the time. Mm-hmm. I was like, I didn't even know they were having conversations about this.
Yeah.
What crazy thing are they doing now?
Yeah, totally.
No way they're going to do it. And then they do it.
Yeah. And it's crazy because like, I think when we talk big dreams, like sometimes we almost have to be careful in front of them because they believe so much that like whatever we say we're going to do, we're going to follow through on and we're going to do it. And sometimes it's scary for them. They're like, wait a minute, what? I'm not going to go to the school, or I'm not going to have these friends, or I'm not going to live in this house, or whatever we're talking about. And it freaks them out because they know that like we make big, bold moves pretty often, and that we're not just going to sit there and talk about it. We're actually going to follow through and do it. And I think that makes them inspired, but it also makes them nervous in a lot of ways too. There's
a truth to this way of living. There's an honesty of this is what I want in my life. I'm willing to speak unapologetically about it, and I'm willing to give it a shot. And then when you have two people in that discussion, it gets spicier. I think I just asked you recently, I was like, why did you sit on the horse for so long without saying that, like, this is your dream? Like, how did you go that long? And you were like, I felt like it wasn't a possibility. Like, there's no way you wanted to do it. And I almost felt bad. I was like, how could you, if you wanted it that badly, why didn't you speak up? You ended up doing it.
Yeah, but it took a while. I mean, it was an impossible game for me. We talk about, your coach talks about a lot about like, what's your impossible goals or your impossible dream? And for me, owning a horse was like, in my brain, it was just impossible. Like, too much time, too much money, too much commitment. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And people don't just own horses. Like, that's just not normal.
They do.
You know? Well, I didn't think that.
Yeah.
That was my story. And then when you looked over and you were like, why don't you just buy one? I was like, what do you mean? Like, why don't I just buy one? What does that even mean? And you were like, we'll find a horse, we'll go buy it, you'll board it, and you'll have a horse. Like,
Do you know that alone could have ruined a marriage?
oh, 1,000%.
Right? You know, not to belabor the Lamborghini, like even my dad asked me this morning, he was like, do you regret buying it or leasing it? I was like, no, that's like, Angie has a horse, I have the Lamborghini. He's like, I was like, listen, I could give it back at any time and give two shits.
And I couldn't give Cruz back.
It's different.
Totally.
But it's nice having something that is absolutely on the surface or on paper ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I never thought I would ever be able to justify it in my world. Most people can't. That's one of the reasons why it triggers them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Most people won't give it a shot to go get an RV and think that we're going to be campers and then turn around and sell it, right? Like, and we have all these experiences. These are things that have tested our relationship, but it's also has helped us grow. And so we're willing to, and I don't
And it's
think
made really good stories.
it really
at the very
has.
least.
It has. I mean, even Coeur d'Alene, right?
Yeah. One of the best years. I mean, that was top summer I've had with our kids. Like, best
So
summer
we
ever.
go and visit our friends, and they have a house there, and they had been traveling there for like 5-6 years, and finally pulled the trigger and bought the house. We go up there expecting, I know I was expecting to hate it. I was like, this is the country. This is like, right? And we're there 4 days. I see a house on the 4th day, bring you there, and we bought a house in 4 days.
Yep.
On a vacation.
And then we were flying back home with friends, and they were like, oh, what did you guys do up here? Like, really close friends of ours. And we're like, oh, we just bought a house. They were like, of course you did. We didn't think anything other than that.
So back to, are you willing to risk the marriage?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so just because we're growth obsessed or committed to it doesn't mean that it's not difficult for us to go down this path. It is seductive to just feel like, all right, I don't want to go down this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten to a point where we're not fighting about it anymore. But is that really truly living the truth? And so it shouldn't even be 10 years because that could be too long.
Mm-hmm.
But at the very least, it should be 10 years is the truthful conversation. Because some people are going to play this out where they just don't tell the full truth because they're going to be very fearful of what the truth would mean. Like, saying it out loud makes it real. And once it's real, you can't put that genie back in the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've said it, you're telling the truth to yourself, your partner has heard it.
Yep.
Like, now it has to be addressed. I'm just so curious, what is that thing for you that you've been holding back on, if anything? Like, what is the thing that you think would challenge this? I probably shouldn't even ask this because be careful what you ask.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh. What is the thing for me on our marriage?
Yeah. It could be, you see, and now let's take this 2 ways.
Mm-hmm.
What's the thing for yourself rather than what you want from the other person? Because it's easy to project and be like, I'd love for you to be this way.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just the follow through on all the things that we've talked about. Like, it's building a ranch, it's building a lifestyle, a way of life for us and our kids and our community. And like, that to me is like, that's a non-negotiable at this point.
Okay, so you went from a general statement to a specific.
Mm-hmm.
You want a ranch.
Mm-hmm.
You want green.
Yep.
You want horses. You want equine therapy to be able to perform that. You want this.
Yep.
Great. Do you have a deadline? But you haven't shared it with me.
I mean, we've talked about it. I mean,
because what I'm saying is, like, I haven't really thought this through for myself.
mm-hmm.
Like, what are certain things where I'm like, internal for my own non-negotiables for me, which in essence bleed out into every other area of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I know this is probably something you'd want from me, but I want to get to a point, and I know this would make our marriage better, it'd make me a better dad, it would make me a better friend, it would make me a better businessman, and make me definitely spiritually better, where I am not suffering around this feeling of like having to control, and especially around like death. Like I just want to be like free to let go. And I know that affects every area of my life. And my deadline, believe it or not, is 50. Because I have this weird thing in my head where it's like, I don't know, I think it's like 30 months away, 50 for me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm thinking about this early because I'm not even 48 yet. But I'm like, I have this, maybe it's rational or irrational thought that I should be over this by the time I'm fucking 50. Like, when am I going to figure this out?
Yeah.
Like 50 is like, come on, Dave, you've been on this earth 50 years. Are you really going to keep making the same mistakes and having the same destructive thoughts and story for the last 25, 30 years of your life?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my deadline on me.
Yeah. I mean, my deadline for like that creation that we're doing, I think, is by the time I'm 40 and Ella's in high school.
Interesting.
Yeah, because
we are running out of time with that. There's a window.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I love the book. So one of the things I said to the person I was going back and forth with when she reached out to me was, have you read the book Die With Zero?
Yep.
She was like, I have. And I'm thinking to myself, how have you read that book and not have a playing big mindset?
Right. Or the upper limit or the big leap.
Big Leap is a great book. The Upper Limit, of course.
Upper limit problem.
So that's all about like you hit the ceiling and you just keep hitting it because you're not willing to break everything and break through.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're in a zone of excellence, there's another level, a zone of genius, that is the true one that sets you free, right? It's like the same thing with 10x is easier than 2x, right? Like incremental growth. The 10x version of it forces you to think completely outside the box and to do things completely different of how you've gotten to 2x. It's the same conversation over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But with Die With Zero, what Bill Perkins talks about is if you don't do certain things at certain ages, you absolutely lose that window of opportunity.
Exactly.
Like if we don't do this now, Ella becomes too old.
I know. She doesn't get to experience
It's
it.
over.
Yeah.
Right? And then
I mean, I was telling my trainer this morning, I'm like, man, when I ride, like I feel it in every freaking muscle of my body. Like even just a trail ride, like I feel it in my back and my legs and everything. And she's like, well, you got to get stronger because like, what are you going to do? And it's, I mean, physically, you can't do half the stuff that you want to do at some point.
Well, and then that's why I had the 45th birthday rather than waiting for the 50th. I had the big 45th. I got that from Die With Zero. Like, I don't know who's going to be in my life at 50. I don't know who's going to be alive. I don't know what my life is going to look like. Do the party now. And then do the 50th as well. Joe Dispenza.
Mm-hmm.
You were going to play us a meditation the other morning, and instead you ended up playing a interview. He was on a podcast.
Yep.
And he was talking about these neural networks and these brain pathways are like fully 95% developed by, I don't know, 30 something years old. It was like 20 something years old, right? And then that's why as you get older, it gets harder and harder to change.
Yep.
It's harder and harder to make the big leaps, to make the big jumps, to risk. Because you only have 5% of your brain that you can retrain that is there to help you out.
Exactly.
It's like 5% versus 95%.
Yep.
I do believe, though, we have trained that part of our brains, you and I, better than most.
Yeah. Well, and because one of the things in that, listening to that, he talks about like you wake up, you do the same action to get the same results, get the same feeling, the same emotion, and you're literally living in the same circle, right?
The environment, yeah.
You're having the same thoughts on a daily basis. You're doing the same things. And I feel like we try to break that frame frequently. Like we are definitely there, but man, like, do we ever try? Like,
well, then you start,
constant basis.
if the feedback loop is negative in any area, you're stuck in it.
Yeah.
Right? Like the same triggers the same anxieties, the same stresses. Like you're just going to live that same movie over and over again, which goes right back to the quote, aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort, right? That will age you faster.
Yeah.
That's why they have, cognitive decline is slowed down by people who play video games or who are trying new things and learning new things. It forces the brain to stay healthy and active. It's so counterintuitive of the way people live. And one of the things I love, I just mentioned it yesterday in the coaching, I was like, break the box, right? And I'm always like, think outside the box, break the box. And you always have the greatest, it pisses me off that you say it. You know what you say? You don't even remember, do you?
No. Burn the box down. Or there is no box.
Yes, there you go.
There is no box.
You get like performance anxiety when I throw it. Yeah, there is no box. But it's an interesting place to live when there is no box. Because then you got to create a new one.
Yep.
Right? And in different shapes. And so my biggest fear right there with you is to be the couple that's in their 60s or 70s and they're watching the same Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. They're not having sex anymore. And they're just on their couch and maybe they go on a cruise if they're lucky. Like, I don't want it to be like that.
No. And speaking of marriages, like like you said, I'm willing, for me, it's not even like leaving the past. It's being vulnerable, and it's being like, all right, let's do some crazy shit. You know what I mean? Like, let's go to a sex seminar and see what we don't know. And let's try new things. You know what I mean? Like, you may want to explain what this sex seminar is. Well, my friend went to, I think, Ibiza or something.
You keep bringing this up. It sounds like a swingers.
It's not. You're going with your significant other.
Well, so would you with a swingers thing, but continue.
Oh, well, maybe. But I don't know. It was
it was like a tantric type thing.
Yes. And it was just like an exotic retreat. And she was like, I feel so good in my body. I feel so sexual. I feel so present. I feel like I'm more attracted to my husband than I ever have been. Like, it was more of an energy thing than it was a physical thing. And I think that that would just be wild.
I think that's why we're growth junkies, because we're the people who are like, well, go to the back of the room right now and sign up for $20,000. And we're like, we're in.
Yeah.
Like, even when we used to be at the Tony Robbins things and we look at each other, I was like, there was no convincing each other once, because we were like, you want to do it? I'm like, yeah, you want to do it? Yeah. Let's go. Justifying it.
Exactly. When we almost paid for Platinum Partners and we literally
didn't even
put every single penny of what we had in.
That is the key of the 10-year marriage. That is the key. You must be willing to burn down the good in order to unveil the great. New level, yes, new devil, but it's worth it. So not just in life, but especially in your marriage, because it's kind of a metaphor for everything else. In order to have it all, you need to risk it all.